Yeah, you just hold it in the pocket.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Pawtucket School Committee regular meeting on Thursday, February 15th, 2024 at 6:04 p.m. Ms. List, please take a roll call.
Ms. Vanola. Here. Mr. Shalal. Here. Ms. Doobie.
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez. Here. Ms. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Charbonneau.
Here, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will move to special report of student representative. Anyone here from Shea High School?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Glenara Santos. I am a senior at Shea High School, and these are our Shea happenings. Tonight, we held our FAFSA completion night, the second portion. The first one we did in January was such a success that we had to do this one. Our seniors are working on portfolio submissions. We're working on getting some of our seniors their caps and gowns and making sure everyone is on the right path to graduate. Shea Fashion is currently working on their show set for May 4th and are searching for sponsors. Yearbooks are currently on sale. A special congratulations to Shea's robotics team, the Bucket Bops, Team 8413, for advancing to the state championship and winning Connect Award for outreach and promoting robotics and STEM in our community. The team competed in the first 2024 qualifying meet in North Kingston High School on Saturday, January 20th. Also, congratulations to Benny Hamas Sirleaf and Luis Diaz de Souza for being the first Robotics Dean's List semifinalists. The boys track team earned medals at the World Trophy Invitational back in late January in the 4x200 meter relay, which featured Eddie Suarez, Timmy Jegede, Elvery Mitchell, and Tyrell O'Connell. Tyrell also followed up with second place finish in the 55 meter dash. Congrats to all competitors. The boys track team competed in the last chance qualifier meet on Saturday. The meter relay team jumped up 6 places in the state, ranking 17th to 11th with their impressive performance featuring Tyrell O'Connell, Temi Jagade, Jermaine Bomba, and Elvery Mitchell. All 4 will run again on Saturday at the RI State Championship meet. Good luck to all. The boys track team also competed in the RI JV State Championship meet last night. Stanley Molina posted his best performance of the season in the shot put. Carlos Medina and Kaysen Goncalves also ran personal records in the 600 meter run and 55 meter dash. Again, congrats to all, and the track season continues this Saturday at the RI Varsity State Championships. We held exams back in January from the 19th to the 25th. All students did an incredible job, and we're so proud of them for their hard work and determination. Sign-ups for spring sports have already begun. Representatives from different programs, opportunities, and colleges have visited our students. This week, we're holding our Spirit Week. Monday was Crazy Goofy Socks Day. Tuesday was Love Your Culture Day. Wednesday was Boot Up Our Dynamic Duo Day. Today was Senior Citizens versus Daycare. And tomorrow is Freaky Friday. Teachers dress like students and students dress like teachers. Finally, the senior class has chosen their senior trip, DreamWorks Water Park in New Jersey. We heard that the students last year had such a fun time, and we heard how the school committee contributed to the trip last year, and we hope to talk to you guys on the 29th, and I hope to approve this donation. Thank you so much and have a great night.
All right, Tolman High.
Hello everyone, my name is Jayla Labassiere. I am a senior at Tolman High School, and this is what's happening at Tolman. Access testing for our ELL students will conclude tomorrow. The makeup window will close on March 1st. The junior class hosted a winter ball last Friday evening in the Tolman Gymnasium. The dance was well attended and the class was able to raise significant funds. The boys basketball team celebrated senior night on Monday evening with a 40-point win over Coventry. The game was live streamed on Channel 10. Senior Malik Jelinas led the way with 41 points. The win clinched the 3rd seed for the Tigers in the upcoming playoffs. The Shulman girls basketball team is currently the number 2 seed in Division II. The girls will celebrate their senior night this evening in the Donaldson Gymnasium. The freshman boys basketball hosted Johnston in the playoffs yesterday afternoon at Tolman. The team won by 14 and will host a semifinal game against North Providence this afternoon in the freshman state tournament. The following students finished 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in the event at the RI DECA Career Development Conference. Javian Andrade, Nicholas Fleury, Jahe Reales, Mariah Stefanik, Brendalise Urbina. The following team of students finished in 2nd place in the Rhode Island Life Smarts competition: Giselle Brooks, Edivania Forts, Jahe Reales, and Mariah Stefanik. Senior Gianna Wilson was recognized this week by Channel 10 as a Scholar Athlete of the Week. Gianna, who plays tennis and runs track, is currently ranked number 7 in the senior class. Thank you.
All right, and a representative from Jacqueline Wall.
Good evening, my name is Sarah Souza, and I'm a senior visual art major at Jacqueline M. Walsh School for the Arts. We rounded our semester 1 with our showcase and midterms in January and kick off semester 2 with a week of auditions where we welcomed 97 8th graders in for their auditions for the JMW class of 2028. Decisions were finalized and students should be receiving their letters in the mail by early next week. On February 2nd, we held our first ever winter ball, which was a huge success. Big thank you to Aramark for catering the event and to our student council for planning it. On February 8th, our grade 10 students attended a performance of To Kill a Mockingbird at PPAC. and the mock trial team took on Hendricken in the quarterfinals last week and was thrilled to win, moving on to the semifinals against Wheeler on February 28th. Our art students have begun a partnership with Art League of Rhode Island to learn more about what it takes to put together a gallery, and each grade of visual art students will be going to the gallery for a workshop with the potential for a future internship opportunity, as well as a combined student gallery event on April 6th in collaboration with LaSalle Academy in Prout. Our music students will also be involved and will be performing at the opening night. Our prom committee is holding a calendar fundraiser in order to help offset the cost of prom. We are super excited for our grand prize on March 31st, as it is 2 front row seats at PPAC for a show company and a gift certificate to Sullivan's right here in Pawtucket. Other than that, we are looking forward to February break, a relatively quiet March, and a busy April, May, and June. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
All right, we will move to public participation. Mr. Preet.
Good evening, Chairman Charbonneau, Deputy Chair Doobie, school committee members, and Assistant Superintendent Lisa Ramsey. My name is Christina DePreet. I am the Vice President for Secondary of the Pawtucket Teachers Alliance. I am the chair of the math department at Tolman High School and have been teaching math there for the past 26 years, over half of my life. I stand here before you this evening to express my grave concern over the climate at Tolman High School. Ron Beaupre stood in front of this committee almost a year ago asking for your support in helping the high schools with the excess violence and lack of respect of authority in the high schools. At that time, it was regarding Shea High School. Upon Ron's request a year ago, a Safe and Orderly Schools Committee was formed for the 3 high schools and 3 middle schools. I was on that committee along with other secondary teachers. We met 4 or 5 times over the course of a few months. We came up with 2 immediate solutions. 1, a Safe and Orderly Schools facilitator, 1 at Shea, 1 at Tolman High School. Second, a virtual program with a 3 to 5 component for about 10 students from Tolman High School and 10 students from Shea. The Safe and Orderly Schools Committee was told the district had the money to fund the 2 immediate solutions for the remainder of the school year. The Safe and Orderly Schools facilitator positions were posted, and the members of the Safe and Orderly Schools Committee looked at a program from Pearson for the virtual piece and decided to go forward with it. Everything was in place. Then the former superintendent resigned and everything halted. No committee meetings, no communication, nothing since our last meeting in April or May of 2023. With a month or so left of school, the union was informed that interim superintendent Kim Mercer cut the funding for the Safe and Orderly Schools position and virtual program. Here we are almost a year after Ron stood here, and we are still having the same issues. I am, though, happy to say that Lisa Ramsey has put together a committee meeting for the Safe and Orderly Schools Committee after vacation. So we're grateful for that. So currently at Tolman, we have students who are cutting classes, wandering the hallways, sitting in stairwells. They are blocking the passage of people trying to get down the stairwell, hanging out in different parts of the building. They're being disruptive. They're fighting violently. They're carrying weapons. They are verbally abusive to teachers and their peers, and they are threatening teachers and their peers. These particular students have minimal credits. When we, the teachers, address the students for a pass or tell them to get to class, we are either ignored or sworn at and told to mind our blanking business, along with other choice words. While Tolman is our business, we care about our building. We want order. Having order is the only way we can create an environment conducive to learning. We love what we do, and we are frustrated we have gotten to this point. We are exhausted. We're at the point of saying, why should we tell the students to get to class? They're going to ignore us anyway, or we'll get verbally abused. Some of us have just stopped. These students are creating a culture of violence, not a culture of academics. I would like to note it is a small percentage of students, but it's affecting our entire building. These students are pulling down the other students who are very easily influenced, the very students affecting our state test scores. Some students are afraid to come to school and some are withdrawing. We have done everything in our power to reach these students. We've built relationships. We have a student support room. We've done mediation. We've spoken to the students. We've counseled them. We've reached out to their parent or guardians. We have them speak with our social worker and our representative from Boys Town. All of these efforts with little or no change of their behavior. These students' social and emotional needs are simply too great and cannot be met in a traditional high school. They cannot be successful in a traditional high school environment. They need another option. If we want to see test scores rise, we need an alternative placement for students who cannot be successful in a traditional high school. They are drowning in a large setting and dragging other easily influenced peers with them. These students need a smaller learning environment to be successful where their social and emotional needs can be met. Right now at the high schools, in order to be a sophomore, you have to have 5 credits at the end of your freshman year. Currently at Tolman High School, we have about 40 juniors with less than 8 credits. They have been in the building for 3 years and don't have 8 credits. Some have 0 credits. They need 22 credits to graduate. Mathematically, it's impossible for them to graduate unless they take credit recovery for all their classes they failed, which is very unlikely. These students refuse to do work. They wander the building and cause disruptions all day. We give them many opportunities to make up work or assessments. They simply do not care to make up work. These are some of the students I firmly believe are not in the right environment for them to be successful, but we have no other option for them. We need to provide them with a smaller learning environment where their needs can be met. This is the worst school climate that I've seen in 26 years. Very reminiscent of the year before the PLA opened in Pawtucket. That was the Pawtucket Learning Academy. It was our alternative learning school for high school students. It gave our students who are unable to be successful in a traditional high school a chance. It worked. We need it back. I believe the immediate solutions are the ones the Safe and Orderly Schools Committee came up with almost a year ago. It is a necessity to address the violence and disrespect that is happening in our high schools. 1, we need a Safe and Orderly Schools facilitator at Shea and Tolman High School. 2, we need a virtual program with a 3 to 5 component. In addition, an alternative learning program needs to be created in the city. When the Pawtucket Learning Academy was in place, it was successful and it gave our students who are unable to be successful in a traditional high school a chance. There are students who cannot function in a traditional high school and need a smaller school environment. Unfortunately, this will only get worse once Shea and Tolman become the unified high school. An alternative learning school is needed. We are constantly talking about test scores. Bringing in this wonderful program and having this intervention is not the answer. It's a Band-Aid, yes, but not the answer. Test scores will not rise at the high schools until those students who cannot function and be successful in a traditional high school are out of the buildings and placed in an alternative setting where their needs can be met. The longer we wait, the worse it's going to get. We are losing good teachers and having problems filling open positions. At Tolman alone, we have 2 English positions and 1 math position unfilled. Those are the 2 state testing subjects. We've had to have current teachers in the building take over a period in the open schedule during their duty. So at least those students can have a teacher and receive an education. That means those teachers who are monitoring the hallway for their duty are no longer doing their duty. So there's no one monitoring the hallways during that period. People don't want to come into the profession. We wonder why. Who would want to work in a profession where you get verbally abused and ignored on a daily basis and then get blamed for the low test scores? We are working so hard and are exhausted. Enough is enough. At what point do we say it's time to do something? The time is now. Thank you.
Mr. Lancellotti.
I don't really like that. Good evening, Chairman Charbonneau, Deputy Chair Doobie, members of the school committee, Assistant Superintendent Ramsey. My name is Dean Lancelotti. I am the treasurer of the Pawtucket Teachers Alliance. I am also the business department chair at Tolman High School, and I have been teaching students about money and investing for the past 27 years. I'm here to also speak to you regarding my concerns about the climate of Tolman High School, similar to Ms. Dupree. However, I will not be as kind. As Christina stated, there are issues at both Shea and Tolman. This is not new. Students have been disrupted for a long time. I'm sure you all knew a disruptive student or two when you were in school. The problem is that now there are many disruptive students. Many students are failing multiple classes. As Christina stated, many students are cutting classes, wandering the hallways, loudly disrupting ongoing classes, hanging out vaping in the bathrooms, all with no fear of discipline. As the student conduct policy, JIC, states, all professional staff members have the responsibility for consistency in establishing and maintaining an appropriate behavioral atmosphere. Every student is under the direction and control of teachers and/or principals in the school during the school day. However, if students are confronted by a teacher who has hall duty or bathroom duty, or is attempting to clear the hallway as we are instructed to do by administration, requests to move along are ignored. Students berate and swear at teachers. I myself was threatened just 2 weeks ago by a student I didn't know. After walking into the boys' lab and finding at least 12 or 13 students circled together in a cloud, not one of them was using the urinals or the toilet. I asked them all to leave unless they had a pass. Those who had a pass were lined up to go to the bathroom one at a time. This particular student didn't have a pass and refused to leave. When I told him he needed to leave because he didn't have a pass, his response was, "I don't give an F." Every request was met with this response. And when I didn't relent, I was told that if I were on the street, he'd slap the shit out of me. It's not the first time this has happened. I don't care. I have thick skin. I'm tired of hearing about students puking or greening out because they're so blasted. I will continue to assist the administrators in the building as I am asked. But you wonder why some teachers don't want to help clear the halls or are fearful to get involved. Or worse, they leave the district for a place that actually disciplines students. Or even more detrimental than that, they leave the profession altogether. These are caring, hardworking people who give up because of the frustration from the political BS of education. Why are so many students failing classes and being disruptive in school? What has changed since you were in school? I'll tell you what's changed. Policy. Rather, the lack of following through with policy because it's not politically correct or the district is afraid of RIDE. Current educational policy is basically that the student isn't at fault for anything. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want. There's an excuse for everything. Pawtucket does have a progressive discipline policy system in place. But what happens when the progressive discipline policy is followed by principals at the school level and it reaches the point of suspension, which has happened many times this year? Central administration denies or heavily questions suspensions, intimidating administrators. In fact, principals have been told/threatened not to suspend students. Why? So someone can stand in front of the school committee with a chart and boast how suspensions are down? Meanwhile, morale and school climate degrades even further. Here is an example. A few students have been caught on camera dealing. It was brought to the attention of central administration. They make a few comments about how it needs to be taken care of, then nothing happens. The school committee's district policy clearly states in the substance abuse policy, JLDBC, that if they are caught dealing, it's an automatic suspension. They might be suspended for 5 days, then are allowed to return and the same behavior continues. A slap on the wrist here in Pawtucket. Lack of discipline has been going on for a while. So much so that unruliness has elevated the violence. The number of fights have increased over the past few months. Students in other schools in other districts know about all the fights because all of them are recorded and posted or live streamed on social media. Most times when suspensions are recommended, they are denied or heavily questioned by administration. Now it has escalated to weapons. Multiple weapons have been found or confiscated over the past few weeks. Even those suspensions have been questioned behind closed doors. Really? Whatever happened to zero tolerance? Those students are back in 5 days as well. Another slap on the wrist. Do we have to wait until someone actually gets stabbed or shot before real action takes place? This committee has questioned multiple times, why do so many students want to go to charter schools or private schools or choose to be homeschooled by their parents? The committee has also questioned, why can't we find teachers to fill open positions? I just gave you the answer. Mr. Preet and I both stated how students cut classes daily and wander the halls. They hang out in the basement. If they finally move after being told to go to class, they move to the cafeteria. When kicked out of there, they move to the lavatories. When told to move from there, they go back to the basement. Some of these students probably get in 15,000 steps a day. It's a hide and seek game to them. We call it the Tolman Mall. I can look on my rosters right now and find at least 7 or 8 students per class who routinely cut classes on a daily basis. I write up everyone for cutting. Sometimes it takes me 15 minutes or more at the end of the day to enter them into Skyward. We are talking about students with 60, 80, 100 discipline issues. Have we even reached 100 days of school yet? The school committee's student suspension policy also states it is the administration's responsibility to remove a student from school for 1, willful and repeated violation of school rules. 2, willful conduct which materially and substantially disrupts the right of others to an education. If this is not willful and repeated violation of rules, I don't know what is. Any suspensions for these frequent flyers or long-term solutions, little to none. If they are caught, we have an in-school suspension. That's if they are caught. The numbers are too great for the administrators to keep up, or in-house suspension maxes out its capabilities almost on a daily basis. We did have a beacon of hope, a place where the most needy and disruptive students could go, a place where those who could not be successful in a traditional high school could learn and be successful. RIAA, the Rhode Island Alternative Academy. Smaller class sizes, individualized one-on-one instruction, highly structured environment, behavior modification strategies. Many of our most needy students were successful there. Not anymore. Why? Because Pawtucket didn't communicate with them. Pawtucket was notified that the contract was up and needed to be renegotiated. Multiple times, RIAA administration attempted to communicate with the central office, but didn't get a call back. So RIAA made a choice. They got another contract with Warwick and closed up shop in Pawtucket. We had a student who wrote a letter basically begging to stay at RIAA because she was successful and wanted to stay. Nope, back at Tolman, failing most, if not all of her classes. Additionally gone with that contract are the behavior techs throughout the district. Valuable, trained, and knowledgeable people who are great with assisting our students' social and emotional needs and aid with behavioral modification strategies. Gone next year. Teachers and administrators have been begging for the district to start some form of alternative learning program for years since the last one was closed down. A place where at least 40 of just Tolman students should probably be at. When Patty DeCenzo was first hired as a transformation officer here in Pawtucket, the first thing she did was ask the vice principals at Tolman who the top 25 students on their list was. She began the ball rolling on an alternative program before the new principal of Tolman High School was even hired. The following year, she asked for the next 15. From then on, test scores began to increase. I got an email yesterday that the Safe and Orderly Schools Committee was starting up again. Maybe after all the years of complaining and begging, something will finally come to fruition. I'll believe it when the first students are sitting in front of an ALP teacher. I haven't talked about the rampant lack of attendance and frequent tardies, which this committee has questioned. I haven't mentioned the amount of trash that students leave in the hallways because they get lunch, then leave to walk the hallways and throw their leftovers on the floor and throw fruit at the walls. Let's just say the custodians have told me the rodent population is blossoming. I haven't mentioned how many times school administrators have attempted to disciplinary dismiss a student and the parent refuses to answer the phone because they recognize the number on caller ID. There is much more I could present to you, and I will at future meetings. You can be sure of that. Let me finish with this. My father raised me with a belief. I pass that belief on to my sons, and I also try to pass this belief on to my students. There are two kinds of people in the world, only two. I don't care if you're black, brown, white, green, purple, red, yellow. There are those who work and those who don't. We have a large population of students who work hard. They come to school every day. They do their homework. They study for tests and quizzes, actively ask questions if they don't understand something. They participate and try to do their best. Even if they only get a C, they worked for it. They want to better themselves because they want to improve their lives. But we also have an ever-growing population of entitled students who don't work. They don't value education. They don't even try. And when teachers try to prod them to at least make an attempt, we are looked at like we are bothering them. They would rather just hang around and socialize or are content ignoring us so they can continue to scroll on their phones. Why? That's how they've gone through school their entire life. Did nothing in elementary school, socially promoted. Did nothing in junior high, socially promoted. Parents allow them to be absent multiple times in elementary school, multiple times in junior high. Disruptive in elementary, go to the principal's office for a snack and a juice. And you wonder why they call it the school to prison pipeline. Lack of following through with discipline and consequences has created it. My wife says it's a basic parenting 101. Say what you mean and follow through with what you say. If you don't follow through with the consequences, you have undermined yourself and the child runs the household. I said earlier, students do whatever they want, whenever they want, and whatever they want. Then we release them to the world at 18 and it continues. Show up when they want to work, fired. Mouth off to the boss, fired. On their phones at work, fired. Our goal is to prepare them from college, career, or the military. The students we are talking about will not make it at Tolman or in any of these settings either. The time to act is now. We need to follow through with policy now. We need an alternative learning placement now. We need a collaborative effort between central office, building administrators, and teachers now. If we don't, and a functioning disciplinary system is not running and in place, in about 4 years or so, the new high school will be lost within weeks, and the entire venture will be a wasted opportunity to improve our students' lives. Thank you for your time.
All right, Councilman Gregor. Davis Gregor. Councilman Gregor.
Good evening, Chairman Charbonneau, members of the school committee, and Assistant Superintendent. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Initially, I wasn't going to address this, but since it was just brought up in school committee, I figured.
Let me interrupt you. And I apologize. I thought when you were motioning to me, you wanted your name on public participation. So I put your name here. If you don't want to speak, you don't have to.
Oh, no, I do want to speep.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I was referencing the topic that was just discussed. That was not what I was here to talk about, but it's very illuminating, and they make a really excellent point. I'm not sure what would be the point of spending all these millions of dollars for dual high school when these basic issues are not resolved. I know that yours is not an easy task. This is certainly a difficult situation, but if they're not addressed, as they just suggested, dual high school is not going to do anything other than double the issues and create unsafe situations and teachers dropping out and good students leaving. So that being said, the real reason why I was here is in part as to McCoy Stadium. I think everybody knows I'm not in favor of the destruction of McCoy. I think it's a landmark, should be preserved, and for all the other various reasons that several people including the Save McCoy Committee as articulated at several meetings. So I'm not going to get back into that. However, the reason why I'm here is because I just read something that I found very disturbing is the fact that all the remnants of McCoy, the collectibles, items, and various things are going to be auctioned out. I think that's very sad because if this does go through and McCoy is destroyed, you're taking away the last remaining things residents here care deeply about to be able to look at. So those items do not belong to private collections. Some of my suggestions would be at this point, since you do have site control and administration is no longer in charge of McCoy, that you folks might want to consider whether a museum and putting those items there would be more appropriate for the residents of Pawtucket who do deserve it in light of the fact that they're going to be losing such a landmark. It should not be in a private collection and sold off to the highest bidder. I think they belong to the people and should remain in Pawtucket. And just off the top of my head, the George Billiard Game Room, or whatever that used to be, the Sawyer School building that's been destroyed, would be a perfect spot where maybe the committee could consider doing a museum for McCoy. The designers for the dual high schools and all of these construction folks and advisors and construction managers stand to make a great deal of money off this entire dual high school. Perhaps they could commit some funds and other things to make that happen. A beautiful design, maybe looking like McCoy, and that spot would be perfect. It would be an added measure to bring people in downtown Pawtucket. You have Slater Mill, which is a historical site, and itself having other things of that sort would be, I think, a lot more appropriate than whatever it is they're intending to do over there. Because what I've seen is a very myopic and stunted vision that just believes in nihilism. Destroy it, let it rot, and it's abandoned, and what are we going to have here? A ghost town. City Hall goes, McCoy goes, but I would be more than happy if you were to come to some decision to consider something like that, to join that committee. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would as well. But again, I just stress that those items, those lyrics should not be in a private collection. It belongs to the people of Pawtucket, should remain Pawtucket in the museum. There's plenty of money going around here. Perhaps that could be some of the things that could be offset through this $300 million or whatever it is at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. There's no one else for public participation, so we'll move to approval of previous meeting minutes from 1:25:24. Motion to approve the minutes of 1:25:24 by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Old business discussion action items. Ms. Dewey will take the next couple of items.
So we have two second passage items here, both of them passed first passage with no discussion or changes. The first one is School Committee Communication, PDH. This is a new policy. They passed first passage.
Motion to approve BDH, School Committee Communication by Mr. Shalal, seconded by Ms. Fernandez. Discussion, Ms. Bonolo.
Okay, since first passage of this, I have had a huge problem with it. So it says the first paragraph, request for available school department information from the administration shall be directed through the school committee clerk. So that's fine. However, it could inundate Diana with a lot of requests. The school committee chair shall be copied on all requests for information to determine if the request for information should be placed on a school committee agenda for authorization. When the information has been secured, the clerk will share it with all members of the committee. The information will be delivered to the committee within a reasonable amount of time, not to exceed 20 days, which is the same as an offer request. So my problem is there a process for reconsideration if the chair doesn't consider your request valid? I believe every school committee member has the right, but this, before you answer me, Erin, this doesn't say, if I make a request and I copy Jay and send it to Diana, it doesn't let me know anything will happen with that request until possibly 20 days later when, if it's a request for information, I don't receive it. So there's no detail in here that indicates that we will be communicated with. Jay's not always going to be chair. What happens if the chair decides it's another day and time that the chair decides that this request is frivolous, doesn't want to deal with it, it's off the agenda. Therefore, the member's voice becomes mute. So that's my issue with the first paragraph.
So, first of all, there's no ability for the chair to say, this is not information that I'm going to give you. So as it reads, the chair should be copied, but only to fulfill the second paragraph's purpose, which is that if there is something that has been requested that requires staff to work hours to compile. So for instance, daily attendance is something that someone could secure. But if it was something where we would need to send people out to schools to conduct a study, that shouldn't be any one school committee's ability to say, I want this information. It would need to come to an agenda, and the school committee would then vote and say, we all agree that this is, or the majority agrees. So that line that says that that the school committee chair shall be copied only, not to gatekeep, not to say, so nothing says that they can say to determine that it shouldn't be filled, just to determine if this actually should be placed on an agenda, at which point it would be placed on the very next agenda to be determined. So I disagree that this in any way prevents information from getting out. I think that what this is anticipating the idea that many of us who have been here for almost a decade, we all have come up with different ways of getting information. And I think that it puts people who have more history at an advantage over new members. Now, any new member who comes in can read this and say, how do I get, I have a question. How do I get information? Oh, I go through the school committee clerk, that's what our clerk is for, to kind of be the person who manages our information. I go through the clerk. Now I know how to do that. And once again, it says that I will get that information timely, but 100%, it should not exceed 20 days. And specifically, the chair will let me know if this actually needs to go on an agenda. So I think that's the second one where it says that such a request should only be honored if approved a majority vote of the committee. In such cases, all members will be given copies of the information requested. And I think that this dovetails very well with our policy that says that any committee member can put an item, as all of us who have been chair know, any committee member can put an item on the upcoming agenda as long as that request is given within 8 days. So I think that we actually have, in comparison to other school committees, a policy manual that really ensures that no individual member feels like they don't have the power to put things on agendas and make sure that their concerns are heard.
Right, and I understand that, and I know where we're coming from. However, I also was on this committee when the committee didn't have a voice, where members didn't have a voice, and I think Jim was part of the committee then, where everything happened with only the chair and only the superintendent. I don't want to see that happen. And this doesn't say that we will be communicated with, that our request even gets acknowledged. I mean, if you could fit that in there somewhere and, acknowledge the request, it's gone to so-and-so, So it just doesn't sit and become possibly nothing, because we're not always going to be here. Someone else is going to take over, and you can read it a different way. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see the voices muffled. So that's my first one. The other one is, if individual school committee members interested in visiting schools or classrooms will inform the school committee clerk, who will make arrangements for visitations through principals of various schools. Such visits will be regarded as informal expressions of interest in school affairs and not as inspections or visits of supervisory or administrative process. My problem with that is, if school committee members are not to consider the condition of schools when they're there, where is the oversight? I understand that the principals are supposed to take care of their own schools, the administration is supposed to take care of the schools, but we can walk into any school in this district and we can find that we have problems. So if you take away our voice here, we don't have that oversight anymore. Go ahead.
So once again, I don't think that's what this says here. I think this says that we are not individually, any of us, supervisors or administrators. And no one of us individually can serve as an inspector. We as a committee, if we say, which we have, if we say we have a new school building that we want to go tour, those are set up and the committee can go as a whole to do an inspection. Maybe something has happened at a school and we want to make sure that it's been resolved. So we may go to that school for that purpose. But what's very important is that none of us are elected to individually be able to operate. We are elected as a committee, our voices as a committee. And I think that once again, this is something that I think prevents what you were saying about many years ago when, like the chair could just say, I'm not doing that. One, we didn't have the policy that anyone can place. That was a new policy that I wrote in 2015 or 16, that anyone could place an item on an agenda. And two, we don't have a policy like this, which almost every other school committee has. And this one is more liberal as far as that. But I don't see this as you can't observe something and then bring it back to this committee. What it means is you don't walk into that school and say, I'm here to figure out how our second grade curriculum is working because I have some questions about it. You go in because as a school committee member, you're interested in touring our schools and seeing what's going on in our schools. And yes, if you go and you observe that certain things are not what you would want to see, you would bring it to this body to do something. So I don't think it says you have to just turn a blind eye to something that you see that's problematic. It says you don't go into it as a supervisor or an inspector. You go in as a committee member.
Okay. So the final thing that disturbs me about this is and I'm not sure where, okay, chairpersons of subcommittees of the full committee communicate directly with members of the administration on items that are on upcoming subcommittee agendas, and that's fine. My problem is, and I have been informed, and it's kind of knowledge that administrators are not supposed to speak with the school committee members. I have been told that by administrators. It's upsetting. But my problem is that there's nothing that keeps that from happening. So it doesn't allow us to speak with administrators at schools regarding the performance of, say, a superintendent when it comes time for their review. So, okay, so that's a subcommittee. So I'm concerned that this policy, the way it's written, is limiting the voice of the school committee individual members.
Sorry. So what just happened is how concerns should be brought to this committee. As in, we just heard two teachers very eloquently express a concern. All 6 of us, if Ms. Carney were here, all 7 of us heard that concern. It is the way this body should operate. If I have an outreach from an individual person, it's not up to me to resolve it. I pass it off immediately to the administration to resolve. And I encourage people to do exactly what just happened, which is bring concerns to this body as a body. And once again, I think that having administrators contact individual school committee members and those lines of communication, I think once again, it makes it so that we don't operate as a body. We operate based on who we know, who people feel comfortable contacting, and then some people end up feeling very not in the loop, while other people feel like they have all the information. So I think that 100%, you're never going to just, people have, this is Pawtucket. I wasn't raised here, but I know a lot of you were, and people know lots of people. I toured schools with Ms. Grant, and I think at every single school, there were people that Ms. Grant knew. I'm sure Ms. Grant has contacts who reach out to her because of that relationship. But once again, this policy is designed to make sure that there's equity across the board with school committee members and that there's procedures in place. I think it's a strong policy. I would not vote on it. Right now, there's nothing that's been suggested that I would vote to change, but that's where I stand.
Anything else? Ms. Fernandez.
I was just going to say too, and I think something like this is helpful because I've been really confused this last year around communication, and it's my understanding that the school committee, like the superintendent, is who answers to us, not principals, not teachers, so it's very confusing when I hear that a school committee member does something outside of that. And so for me, a policy like this is helpful because there's a lot, things don't operate. It's very confusing how things operate on this committee around communication. And so I like this policy. I'm in the policy committee too, and I think it would be helpful for new members because, right, this is not going to be these members forever. And so something like this, I think, is helpful.
Anything else? There's a motion on the floor for a second passage, approval of BDH. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call on the approval of BDH School Committee Communication.
Ms. Bonolo.
Well, because policy can be changed, I will vote yes.
Mr. Shalal.
Yes.
Ms. Doobie.
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez.
Yes.
Ms. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Shabno.
Yes.
The next policy is the change that we made is to add that word vapes. Once again, this wasn't because vapes were allowed before. It was because it is the current word that is used. We don't use the word electronic cigarette as much. And although it says any item that contains tobacco, and once again, the following section does prohibit anything that contains marijuana, it is added here to be clearer to parents and people that that is also banned.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve JLDBC, Student Substance Abuse Policy by Mr. Shalal, seconded by Ms. Bonolo. Discussion? There being, Ms. Grant?
Yeah, I just have a question. It looks like if these things do take place in this, and I just want to, it's more of a clarification. So for example, if there is dealing in the school, if there is continuous breaking of these particular rules,
there is someone within the police department that the school district or the schools should contact?
Ms. Grant, you are correct. That is what the policy says. It said it before. It isn't being changed now. So that, our policy is very clear about the policy for any reports of dealing of drugs, as well as any reports of possession or use. It is very clearly spelled out.
So I guess my next question would be, I just want to make sure, I don't know if it's something we would include in here, but are the schools aware of how they would get in touch with this particular special squad? Or
I think that usually would fall under more of a procedure that we as a school committee say, this is our policy. These are the 4 items that have to happen. It's reported to a building administrator. The principal is responsible for reporting it to the superintendent. There is an automatic notification, so that could be the superintendent or a designee to the special squad at the police department, and there is a mandatory suspension. That is the policy we as a committee approved in 2015, and remains in effect.
Okay, so, and like, I'm not up on my policies, as you can tell, but it looks like what we are talking about, this particular paragraph has been a consistent.
This has been, although when we did our original policy review, for anyone who's been around that long, we know that it was sketchy to be able to find the records of when policies were passed. That's why we went through every single one and put a definite stamp on. Yeah. This policy was reviewed June 30th, 2015. It has been in effect as this states since then. And our job as a committee is to make policy. The job of the administration is to implement policy.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, call me out of order if I am, but I would like to follow up on the question of regarding policy to the superintendent. Can I ask the superintendent, is there a training that principals, vice principals know exactly where to go with this?
Every secondary school has an SRO officer. Those SRO officers are assigned to elementary schools. The schools are aware of which elementary school which SRO to contact. We also have a liaison to the police department. It's a sergeant in charge of all community relations with us. So if they contact us, we reach out to them, and then it gets taken care of at that point.
When you say them, again, call me out of order, who's them? Does a principal have to call the administration building to tell them, I have an individual in classroom C that needs to be talked to by police? Or does the principals have the right, the unilateral right, to go directly to this special squad, as they put it down? I'm assuming they meant to put SRO in there.
It's both, right? So the administration would need to be notified that there's police involvement in the school, and we would guide them. If there's an immediate thing, yes, they're encouraged to contact 911 if there's an emergency.
Encouraged?
They're told.
All right, good.
Dispatch.
All right, I just want to make sure.
Dispatch.
Well, after hearing, this isn't part of this, but I'm really frustrated with what I heard tonight. But that's a whole different, so words matter. There's no one from the administration here to answer. So I'm just frustrated, but okay, thank you for. No problem.
Anything else on JLDBC? Motion to approve it. It's been seconded. Roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Bonello?
Yes.
Mr. Shalal?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes. All right, moving along to the Capital Reserve Fund, $2.2 million negative balance. So as this committee is aware, I requested the balances in our capital reserve and medical reserve account back on January 9th, a week after I became chair. I asked for updates and repeated my initial request a few times, if not more, during the last month or so. And on 1/28, I received what appeared to be a one-page expense side of the capital reserve account, indicating that there was a negative balance. You all received these communications as informational only pieces from our clerk as they were occurring. And admittedly, I have limited visibility into the day-to-day accounts in the district, but I was blown away to see that we have potentially a negative balance in our capital reserve. So I went back and I looked through some meeting minutes, and this committee in fiscal year 23, we took 2 votes to move the fiscal 22 surplus into the capital reserve. 3.5 million on one vote and 575,315 on another vote. These were during the October 22 meeting and the June 23 meeting. And I encourage you to look at those minutes. My point is, this committee, prior committees, have been diligent about funding this capital reserve fund. And to see, I still haven't gotten the whole fund report that I asked for back on the 9th of January. I have no visibility into the medical reserve balance. I haven't even gotten to that process yet. But if I'm able to go back through meetings and minutes and look, and granted, I can't see the ebb and flow, but it appears to me that there's got to be at least $4 million in that capital reserve account, if not more. I suspect it's a product of when we receive the state aid in. Obviously, the state aid comes in, it goes to the city because we don't hold any accounts. The city then transfers over to us through journal entries, our portion of that state aid. That goes into one general fund in our account, and then it branches off. Some of that money is already earmarked for capital reserve or other projects. I suspect our general fund on the school department side right now is inflated because we haven't made the pull downs to the other buckets that money goes in. So the city transfers over a lump sum into the general fund. We have to then allocate that money. And listen, I said it at the beginning, my knowledge of school finances is limited, but going back through the minutes, the meetings, the votes, I don't see any way that there's a $2.2 million negative balance in there. I think we're going to find out that our general fund is inflated, which walks right into item B, the approval for procurement of financial consulting services.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question for item A?
Yeah, it's a discussion. A was a discussion. A and B go together. But sure, go ahead.
Because there was no backup information in the pack, and now I understand why, because you only received that one Word doc on we're negative 2.2. If it's a personal matter, you don't have to answer. Why is no one here to answer the question? This is a direct question that needs to be answered, I believe. And I thought we were going to have a good, lively debate on where are we coming up with a $2.2 million negative balance when I thought we were close to $5 million in that balance when only a month ago.
Yeah, I don't recall ever getting an update that we were 5 million in that. I don't recall ever getting an update on the capital reserve as it.
Maybe in June.
Yeah, back when Melissa was still here, I thought it was as high as. I thought it was as high as.
5.6.
I thought it was that high. So, is there anyone that can answer this, or should we table this to?
Well, no, I think, like I said, A and B go together.
All right.
So the approval for procurement of financial consultant services ties into the capital reserve showing currently a negative $2.2 million balance. The business office has been decimated. To my knowledge, there are 2 people currently in the department. You know, we've had turnover that hasn't been replaced. And we also have to start looking at building a new budget here. And we can't do that until we close out the previous year. So I think it's an investment well worth. Early on, I said we should do a structural and operational audit, and it was met with criticism, and I get it. But now here we are, and listen, having a general fund that's inflated is not good either, because we're spending money that's already allocated somewhere else. I think it would behoove this committee to approve the procurement of financial consultant services. We can do that.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the procurement of financial consultant services from Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Fernandez. Discussion, Mr. Shalal.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a price on what the financial consultant services will be?
The
Or are
initial,
we putting it out there?
yeah, I think the superintendent's going to go off the state MPA, is my understanding. Any cost associated with that would come back to this committee. But I think we've waited, I think we're in a difficult position here. And I think we need to get the financial stability of the district leveled off and know what account has what money in it as we continue these projects. We're coming up against projects now, and I'm pushing back, asking people, what's the funding source? Well, I don't know. Well, the committee approved bathrooms a year ago with a committed funding source, and now we're told the bathrooms can't get done because we don't know where the money is. So we've got to tighten it up. I think it's time sensitive. And that was Ms. Bonolo.
So this firm that we're looking at, are they going to come in and, are they actually workers or are they audit people? Because one of the things we don't have are employees, and you and I have discussed this. And there are places like Accounts Temp and Robert Half agencies, and if we can't find the people, we need to address this situation because it's way out of hand. We haven't seen any transfer requests come through this committee since last June. So,
which tells me there may be a large bucket in that general fund.
right, so we need workers in that department to start putting the pieces back together. I know we've been shut off by vendors, and the vendors are talking. Back in June, we never had a bill over 30 days.
I think to answer your question, I think the initial step would be to find a financial professional who's versed in this, to come in, sit down and say, listen, I think you need to do this, 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 and this. And then we go out to a firm that brings in a ready-made team of accountants and people to sit down. It's a large, complex financial district, and it requires a specialized level of this school financing. And so I think it starts off probably as an individual or a smaller firm to come and look at where we are, make a recommendation to us, and then we go out off the state MPA and get a firm in for that. It's not going to be cheap. Ms. Graham.
Actually, some of what Ms. Bonolo was asking was my question and you had answered. So thank you.
Any other discussion on the approval for Mr. Shalal?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to reluctantly vote for this because we don't have the people. I'm really disappointed that no one's here. We might not have a problem. We might not. Someone has to answer for why is there documentation going around to this committee that we're $2.2 million short when we don't really know if we are. We have not had a spreadsheet showing us the buckets of money that you're talking about. So I'll support this, but I'm not happy that we're taking money out of our finances to fund something that should have been handled in-house. The the team should be here answering our questions in this month's meeting on why there is a 2.2 million. I thought that's what's gonna be discussed tonight. So I'm just wanna let you know, I'm a little disappointed in this. But I'll support it because it's such an important need, our finances.
Ms. Grant?
I just want to clarify. The reason for this, Chair Charbonneau, the reason I'm asking this is on the agenda is because, like you said, there is no one in the department to do the work. So we need to get these services in place so we can move forward and work on those daily submissions, the budgets that are coming up and things like that, correct?
Right, I think it's a lack of staff problem. I think, let's be clear, this didn't happen 2 days ago. The business office had significant turnover a year ago. And positions have not been filled and have continued to lag, unfilled. And now when I ask for a document, and Mr. Shalal, you say we may not have a problem, but as the chairman of this committee, when I ask for a document, I have to wait a month. I have to ask a repeated number of times. And this is my answer. When I can't get the answers I'm looking for, like any other committee member here, you all have the ability to place an item on the agenda. And that's what I chose to do. But make no mistake about it. This isn't a problem that just happened 2 days ago. Ms. Bonolo.
Do you have an anticipated timeline of how long it will take to find someone to come in?
I don't. I think we can go off the MPA. I have we'll have to get that list of firms off there. But I think we bring us a financial professional in first to tell us, listen, this is what you need. And then we go out, because any of these services are going to be expensive. We don't want to go out for more than we need, but we've got to get this straightened out, and time is of the essence. So motion on the floor to approve the procurement of financial consultant services. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Bonolo.
Yes.
Mr. Shalal.
Yes.
Ms. Doobie.
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau.
Yes. All right. Assistant Superintendent Ramsey, you taking the next couple?
I am.
All right.
I'm gonna go to the podium now.
All right.
I have a few.
Oh, you're taking the next several.
Good evening. So items C and D, and with your permission, perhaps we can talk about them together, because they are indeed related, but do I have that permission?
Two separate votes or?
Two separate votes, so I can go 2 different times.
Can we discuss together? One at a time, okay. One at a time, please.
One at a time. So the first item on the agenda this evening is the RIDE MOA, new construction approval for school construction statewide bond, pay-as-you-go. As you know, we received a pay-as-you-go installment so we can begin the work on the new high school in a timely fashion. We need to accept these funds. We did have the celebration a couple weeks ago, a week or so ago, where we accepted the big check, and now we just have to formalize it by acknowledging that we accept these funds, and then assuming that this all passes this evening, the clerk would need everyone's signature.
Motion to approve the RIDE MOA new construction by Ms. Doobie, seconded by Ms. Bonolo. Any discussion? Roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Bonolo. Yes. Mr. Shalal.
Yes.
Ms. Doobie.
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez.
Yes.
Ms. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that leads into item D on your agenda this evening, which is the commitment to build the high school in the project cost for the dollar amount of $326,187,328.
Motion to approve the RIDE MOA school construction approval, Unified High School by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion on the There being none, roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Manolo? Mr. Shalal?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item in your packet this evening is an extension of the first student transportation contract. At its work session held on Thursday, April 29th, 2021, the Pawtucket School Committee awarded transportation vendor services to First Student Incorporated. The award was for 3 years, beginning on July 1st, 21 through June 30, 24, with a 2 one-year option renewal. The district is seeking to utilize one of those 2 one-year optional renewals for the 24-25 school year. In your packet, you do have the cost breakdown that was approved in that contract that was accepted at that time. So I'm seeking approval to award the one-year renewal to First Student.
Motion to approve the optional one-year transportation contract extension to First Student by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Doobie. Any discussion? Ms. Grant?
I'm just wondering, are we going to be getting a subcommittee together to start talking about the upcoming contracts for this?
If the school committee would like that to happen, I hadn't thought about that. I was working on this one-year contract to get that going, but we absolutely could and should if that's the direction the school committee would like to go.
Well, my thought is that time just seems to go by very quickly, and before we know it, unfortunately, sometimes we get into the holidays and things are forgotten, and I think we want to try to stay ahead of this. So we don't have any problems, because I believe now we transport more students than we ever had, and we want to make sure that we do have this lined up.
You know, you're absolutely correct, and in speaking with the transportation team and the manager, our transportation manager, he did recommend that we start talking about it in December to January, and perhaps we go out for RFP no later than February of next year. So if you'd like a subcommittee to address that, we absolutely could.
Well, I only mentioned the subcommittee because I know in the past, I know there was a committee we had been on, Katie McQuaid had been on with a couple of people. So that's the only reason I mentioned that.
To score the RFP or to?
No.
So I don't think they're subcommittees as far as how we outline them in our, I think that we, just same way that we evaluate bids, we'll usually have no greater than a quorum of this committee evaluate bids, but I would recommend that our clerk, I agree with Ms. Grant, November will be exciting for some people, I'm sure, and you know, then it's the holidays, and so I do think that possibly, I know our clerk is very good about preparing agendas in advance, so maybe one of the November agendas, we make sure it's on the on this committee, and we'll just all wonder why it's there, and then Ms. Grant will say, I put this here.
Right.
And so I do think that that's a way to make sure that it doesn't get, the ball doesn't get dropped.
Agreed. Ms. Lissa, you'll take care of that? Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? There being none, roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Manolo?
Yes.
Mr. Shalal?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes.
The next item on your agenda this evening is the recommendation to award Flora Curtis Elementary School playground equipment. The Pawtucket School Department is in receipt of a bid for the playground equipment package for the Curtis Elementary project. A breakdown of the bid package is included in the attached documents. Based on Collier's project leader evaluation, the enclosed proposal, including through scope reviews, is the recommendation of Collier's to approve this proposal with the following values: playground equipment package, $161,533.42, which is also the total. We do have Rose Gates in here from Collier's should you have any additional questions, but the recommendation is to approve this package.
Motion to approve the Curtis Elementary School playground equipment package by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Discussion?
I believe they actually have a display that we can see what the playground will look like.
Do we have it?
Do we want it?
Can you put it back in me?
Not that far. I just want to make sure I'm not sure.
I get on the live stream.
Very sensitive. Interesting. Some of them work on some things, and some of them don't work on others. That's one that was working on.
Well,
You need a minute, Hirsch? We want to go to the next item? We'll come back to it.
Well, while Mr. Cristino is setting up for the visual, I did want to say for the record, for the minutes, that I didn't say who we were awarding it to. I would like to award it to O'Brien and Sons, so for the minutes, I am saying that aloud. So we can wait. Are you done? My next one is really quick, if I may.
Yeah, we'll take the next one.
Item G on your agenda this evening, at the time we do have, at a previous meeting, you awarded our OPM services to Collier's project leaders for the Unified High School. It is time that we'd like to give them approval to go out for request for qualifications and RFQ for stage 3 and 4 architectural services for the Unified High School.
Motion to approve the recommendation for approval to authorize Collier's project leaders to go out for request for qualifications, architectural services for the Unified High School by Ms. Pinolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion on the RFQ? No, we got to come back to it. We skipped.
Do we have a vote on the table, a motion on the table though? Yes. Oh,
Oh, we did have a motion on the table.
okay. Well, we're ready.
Yeah, we're ready for the next one too.
Whichever.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tim Garish, Principal Landscape Architect, Gardner Garish. Did the work at Curvin Elementary School as well recently. So this is Curtis, very excited about this, working with Joanne. Excited to present this, especially. Oh, okay. Oh, go backward. All right. So 2D plan, bird's eye view. This is the proposed playground. As you can see, this is the existing entry walk. Oops, touch the screen. And we've shifted the entry to the playground over a touch. We have new roller table, 3 bay swings, a week around similar to Curvin. We're keeping the existing climbing structure actually. It's fun and exciting. And then a larger structure here that's accessible through poured in place surface, through entering through on a deck, and then through a ramp and a deck onto this level with various panels, which I'll show you in a second. Okay. As far as accessible items, of course, we have the week around, which is great for multiple kids and et cetera. Handicap accessible, molded swing, bucket swings, the oodle swing, which can be helped with some assistance. The periscope panel, which is great because you can look through that and you can watch the other kids or other people on the playground. Of course, the roller table, which I'll show you, some different panels, and of course, access onto the structure itself. And of course, there's some other elements too, some slides, rectangle climbers, and the ladder, which I'll show you images of quickly. The base of the playground, of course, it's not just the structure, is this wave pattern, which you'll see in a minute with some different colors. Of course, Ocean State, we're thinking mimicking nature, they're bringing in there, so the rhyme or reason of why we do these things. The poured in place pattern colors themselves, after a lot of back and forth. It's tricky, right? You get the light blue, dark blue, a path color, and then the green, which is under the structure. And it should be the next one. Something we created a model to look at with views. Obviously, the existing school off to the right. This is, you can see the chain link fence. This is standing right as you enter from the parking lot, which is the main access for many of the kids into this wing of the building. So you can see the blue striping, light green color underneath here, the existing trees, the panels of different use. Some of them are multi-sided. Looking back at the climbing structure, communication board, roller table. Out from where there's the existing asphalt, where you walk in looking to the north from the school, where most of the kids, I think a lot of the kids will enter from this direction. So they'll see, this does not show the deck. It's a recent addition onto here. So you'll enter onto a deck that has a panel and then up onto the surface. This will be probably playground mulch off to the side here. Going back that direction with the wing around. All right, I'll just keep going. Hopefully. There we go. Looking back at the bird's eye view, balance beams, and then some proposed trees along the entry path. Needed shade in the future. I always hear that on a lot of my projects. We didn't plant trees 20 years ago, so we're going to plant some trees. The color palette that we chose with the blues and the greens, which is represented in the model. Specific equipment, we're doing a 3-bay swing with the same idea with the oodle and the belt swings. Some of this is from our discussions. The roller table, which is great. Very interactive for everybody. Wig around, which we love, and then we have specific panels on the outside. So each one of these panels will be a seasonal display, connecting us with where we live in New England. And there's animal tracks, and then there's medallions that show up that the kids can go and search throughout the playground and find them, the ones that are circled, deer, wolf, etc. This is similar to what we did at Curvin, with the same thing, with the insects, and those medallions, again, are on the play structure themselves. They're made out of metal, they're attached. Surfacing of the periscope panel, and then the panels on both sides of the periscope with connecting with the insects from the other one, and of course the single-sided panels. The rain sound makes a great sound if you've done it at Curvin. Communications board, which is important for Curtis with the populations, and the ball maze, which again very interactive. Kaleidoscope, which turns and gives them colors and forms and shapes, and then of course tic-tac-toe. And ending with, of course, balance. We have the climbing wall, but then being able to balance and jump from pod to pod on the structure. And I think that should be everything. Yes. So, any questions?
Very nice.
It will.
I have some questions for Lisa. I have questions for Lisa in
Okay.
regards to.
It will be back probably next month with Cunningham.
My question is, how much was the grant we received for this playground?
So this is in ESSER 3, and the original was I didn't come prepared with that information for you, but.
So I have another question too.
Okay.
I thought things that came out of ESSA had to come before the school committee. I thought we approved ESSA funds and what they're used for, correct?
Yeah, I think we approved it in buckets, right? Because the ESSER funds, certain items had a cap where you couldn't spend, so of the 47 million we got or whatever, you couldn't spend 47 million just buying all new equipment. Equipment hardware had a cap. So we allocated the money there, but as far as the individual items, I'd have to go back and look. I think,
Because I remember being told that these were Cunningham and Curtis were grant money.
It is. It was an approval. And the approval got shifted to ESSER so we could use the approval in dollars for Baldwin. So it was a shift around, and that was done in an MOA, which we could probably look back and provide you with that information. It was done with an MOA. The Curtis, thanks to Rose, she just gave me the budget cost for Curtis. It's a 78,371.
What the full amount of the grant was that we were given?
No, that's
what I was
just
looking
Curtis. That's Curtis. I'll give you the combined.
Right, what was the full amount of the grant for?
This is for the playground you know what? I don't want to say that again because I think it's different, Rose. What's in ESSER 3 allocated for this project is a little higher because this is the playground budget, but it doesn't include soft costs. So I want to be able to give you the accurate number. And I will give that to the clerk.
I think maybe you misunderstood. I'm just looking for the amounts of what the grants were that we received for Curtis and for Cunningham. I believe Cunningham was 1-point-something million and Curtis was less. Yeah, if you could get me those.
I will get it. I've been spouting them off the top of my head for days and weeks and months now, but now that I'm standing here, I want to be able to quote that exact for you.
Okay. And Mr. Chabot, if you could look into the ESSER, and I don't want anyone to think that I don't want these things done. I really do want these things done. But if these are items that needed to come before us to be approved, I just want to make sure we're doing things the correct way. Because if we're not doing things the correct way, then we need to kind of get back to getting these approvals from the school committee. Because, kind of like Ms. Bonolo said, we're not going to be here all the time. And you might get people who could hold up your projects due to things not being handled correctly.
So I will get you that information that you're asking for, and Mr. Charbonneau, and I can get you that information from previous minutes, but I can also tell you that this did come before you in the form of an MOA.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Ms. Fernandez?
Question about the design is that, the pre-K area, is the playground part of that, or is this so?
On the other side, so the playground is a fence.
Yeah,
That
so
divides
it's not going
them,
beyond
so-
that fence, okay.
Anything else on the Curtis Elementary Playground equipment to O'Brien and Sons in the amount of $161,533.42? Motion on the floor to approve it. It's been seconded. Roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Bonolo?
Yes.
Mr. Shalal? Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes. All right. Recommendation to authorize Collier's project leaders to request for qualifications for architectural services for Unified High School. Motion's been made by Mr. Shalal, seconded, no?
Ms. Bonolo?
Ms.
Seconded by Ms. Grant.
Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Any further discussion on the RFQ? Roll call on the authorization, please.
Ms. Bonolo?
Yes.
Mr. Shalal?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez? Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Charbonneau?
Yes. All right, at this point, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to RI General Law 4246-5, purpose of acting or discussing upon SkyPath Security, Inc.
Second.
Motion to adjourn to executive session by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll send them tomorrow. Okay. I like to do it. Yeah, I guess you worked them. We'll see. No, I use a little handle of things. Yeah, I wake up, I put my 2 feet on the ground.
So folks, you've seen the board has gone into executive session. We're actually going to leave the signal open for the time being, and we'll see how long this goes. So hang in there. If you're watching it on our YouTube channel for the first time, largely because Facebook's got some bugs on it. Facebook doesn't want us to, if you will, portray things in landscape mode. That's a problem if you want to see the entire body at once. If this is your first time on our YouTube channel, if you could just subscribe, we'd be grateful. That's how independent media gets the word out and around, if you will. Well, the bureaucracies, the large organizations, the large media outlets. So take a moment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.
I'm walking away right now. And next time you come, you eat in front of me. That is so not right. So wrong. I don't want it. No, I want a grinder like crazy. I will be there with you. I didn't know what's happening.
Have a date yet?
Yes, it's the Tuesday after vacation. But they know we don't know. But then that's also the day.
Is that after the pathway compilation? You just told me available for that.
I did, no, the 29th.
Well, that's the 29th, that's the Thursday. I don't know, I just must have told somebody else that I'm available on 27th.
I know my 27th is like boom, boom.
Our meeting is the Wednesday. Yes, in the morning is the assignment process, but then we have our board meeting, which I also get to come to. Which I'll do before.
I think that's good. She does that, she did that last time. I was trying to get there, you're welcome.
So. It's one of those that it's not. We used to. 80%.
Which found it? Okay, make sure.
So, yeah.
And then another two siblings, and that one of my at one time I was like, but I sure what, email her and make sure the kids, that was all you.
You know, it's one of those things that as much as like that
It's okay, I know, I agree, now that you explained it What was my example? I know, it's just, what I said is like, things can be morally right and legally right and morally wrong, and like, I think.
Which is why we have lots
I think moving progressively forward, like, there is something, and this is just my own truth, I do think that people should have 8 weeks of maternity leave that have nothing to do with their sick days at all. Because we have our babies in the thick of our careers and we don't have days. Like, I lost my job at Tolman because I was the only kid. There were other people out there at the same time as me, but they're all guys. And then the twins were born 10 weeks later. I was supposed to get back. They were only going to get to years. And it's just like, and that's not other schools. I think that's just like, almost nationwide. It's illegal in some states to take public transportation. Yeah, right, and that's. But my, so I want to make sure, my baby was, I was supposed to have moon at 3, and it was supposed to be born in March, and I was like, oh, and once they started counting it's all day. And I was born in December, they were born December 14th, so like, I thought I had time to get out, and then, you know, it was a twin pregnancy, so it was a hard thing. So, you know, and then, I didn't get paid. So if she finally, yes, these kids are wrong, and don't do that. If they're not wrong, she doesn't know who they are. Cognitive sense, you know, the families just put them in, they don't read it. They'll register kindergarten next year yet, and they just put it in, put the kid's date of birth in, which means kindergarten next year, but the system is their grade base for this year. No, but she's processing them and they're in her name, and I'm saying, if they're not on the list, we should cancel. And then, or we need right now. I know, we I'm just saying, we've done this every year. So I was like, the last year, I just want to say, look at the examples too, because I just want us to be on the same page and say, we should write up as a good note, why are we going to focus on what we're talking
I don't think I've seen this movie.
I do it. So I have to rush right after school because I start at 4:30.
The restaurant.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Was it? You probably went?
That frozen hot chocolate.
Yeah, we sent that.
She got the spices. We had so much fun.
I remember you said it almost a year before you went. I would make a presentation.
I did, but you have to book it. They open it up a month before. Like, we were going on December 2nd. I had wait until 6 a.m. at November 2nd. On November 2nd, I had to book it. Because I checked by November 6th, there was not one reservation.
Oh my gosh.
You have to get,
Serendipity.
you have to get it exactly a month before you plan on going. Otherwise, it's, my sister had come in and my father had and she's very nice. Oh, yeah, I do. Yes, he's on medication. That's what he said. I don't even know. The medication. It slows down the process. That's what he said.
These shoes are open.
Something serious.
That's my student patch. We got time today, right?
Is that, what is that? How long is it?
Every cabinet has but he can, as long as I remember restriction, he can like the microwave, the door broke or something, latch on the door broke. I think it's just for the kid. He's able to take it under, rebuild it, but you do all those. Oh, yeah. He knows he goes, as soon as he gets like a down on the end is when he panics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
It's
genetic. That is amazing.
You can't walk it. It's incredible.
Really?
So she does the registration. Is that really new? Well, this year, I think we better start training some. We took about quorum to help with that. You're already sitting in the front.
Okay, how are you?
Like what happens right now is there's literally found that like right now.
I'm better.
100
So,
pre-K, maybe probably down to I don't know.
no, it was a virus.
Right?
We are later. I was not. 3 hours. You can hear. So it's the take. So that can cover it. Everything was all tested back then, so you have a virus. We gotta stop. We gotta stop. I'm here. Maybe I need to.
When do you leave for Aruba? You're going to Aruba?
I'm going to Aruba.
Oh, I thought, are you going somewhere this week? No?
It's,
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't take yours to a drag queen, I would just be like, can you do this? I still have my connections when the girls were younger. I just found it downstairs. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah.
Even I watched that when I was watching Saturday morning cartoons, they would be freaking advertising on Bronco.
You come back from every vacation. Everything will be clean. Recently, somebody said it, I was like, that looks like it.
are you going to?
But you can't wait to. Me too. Well, I've got like appointments here, dentist, you know. I'm going to I'm from Virginia Beach, I'm just going. Oh, that's nice. I hope you have a nice trip. And my mom's got done her feet, they got a new puppy, so she's like doing better. You know, it's like just going home, hanging out in the condo. I am, it's so different, my seasonal depression. My February vacation, I was just like, and like now, and now I'm down. Their son came out. My godson, my best friend was there. Where are you going? Oh yeah, that's the whole thing, that's. So you're still kids. No, you know what? We do the whole thing.
Lori, I told Lori when she was younger, before she dislocated her knee.
You can sit in the lodge. The lodge is just really fun.
No, she'll go shopping, she'll probably go to the spa. Probably, just so we've been there before. This time, it's both sons, one girlfriend, she's from Maine, her mom, and the uncle owns a place right down the street. So she's coming up the weekend, so I think all of us. I think his wife doesn't ski either, so.
So when are you going for pre-K?
We have Sunday to Sunday.
Sunday to Saturday.
We celebrate every year.
Yeah.
It's party that week is fixed. I don't write in on points or any of that. I want this week. So every.
We just have this
I have 2 weeks
Right, and so
Colonial
Patricia knows who they are,
Williamsburg
and
and
she
Virginia,
knows
and that's who
what I'm
uses
saying is we have this. All right.
So when we went to Florida, it goes in the swamp.
So
So
the kids are.
I basically, I have 3 weeks, but I always have 4 weeks.
She begins as the first day of school, he guesses on his first day of school. That's good for her. So, right, but as soon as we can get the first day of 10 started, and we'll go for it. That's actually a fun question. I can't, but it's this little time.
It is. Bush Garden. What else is the other
It
one?
works out great. Water country, and then and then we get hard. And Busch Gardens is great because we all got the passes, so we would just go there for dinner. Be like, it's not a church for dinner, like it's just.
I love going to Williamsburg. I got pictures of the kids. Making bricks.
I
don't think I was fascinated when they the furniture manufacturing where they do all the old.
My dad was following my dad last time. We were being hard on Williamsburg. My dad was they just take this. My dad was so much confusion. Historic. So we have this little, we have this shop time, but everyone's so down and they want to reach kids next year.
We haven't been.
So we just need to say, I'm sure we can't choose next year, they just said this year. Also, we need to, I'll talk to Patricia, I don't think anyone will say, I think now the sharp is. Recording everybody's listening. Yeah, I just want to remind you. We can talk to Joe. But like I said, yeah, like I said, I've always been, like we've done this, like the third year. We're all on the same page that, hey, if you call me, make a note, just so that we get through it. But there's no communication because I'm so stuck. God forbid you forget, like I said, I'm a team principal. I didn't know who to say these things to, so I'm calling them. Or I'm just trying to send it to them and say, God was that I said, it's not intentional. Birthday CPSC staff, okay, we all know. It's just. Yeah, so I just want to remind Patricia. Mr. Button. He laughed so hard. So he was Mr. Button, I was his cat. He laughed. He goes, that would have been really fun. I like him. We were like, that was okay. I was the problem.
if they're not flagged correctly, they're not allowed to flag. So I remember, I mean, it's 60 kids, the foundation. And that's what there is. And it's not even completed yet. Foundation. I didn't even know she was in special ed because we never knew it. I don't know what friends were. I don't lawyers are here and stuff, you should be courteous. I asked him if we were going to learn about the Z axis. And I looked at his baby. Who wants to retire and doesn't have a grandbaby? That's great. I was like, I don't do
And the one class that was transitioning, shelter in place,
That's what it was.
Unless they're taking a job.
Yeah, it was the IELTS. Yeah, you must have been able to or something. She didn't say it, but she.
Actually, they have like.
But she had told me,
Lincoln, they have
someone
this.
told her, and then I go, I'm gonna check the form. That's nice, I'm glad you guys are good friends.
Justin and I actually were talking.
Oh, I love you, Justin.
I want to steal them, but I wouldn't do that to you. I think we're running, but we're running about 30.
I feel bad.
But then we also have a lot of students.
Yeah.
And then kids are numbers.
I told him, like, hold on 1 second, like, put him on mute. It goes back to you.
Right. I know there's a class, yeah, and then that was it, they paid their state work and we paid our bills, that was it. Now the state decided that we paid. So when you look at the numbers. But can the bus. It's just crazy. It's just.
Only playing West Coast twice in a row.
I don't know.
Yes, and I understand.
My roommate is, I can't tell you. So my roommate and his dad. So they got.
I was like, I had no idea.
They are tall.
She's spicy. She had something else.
Oh, Jody. Oh, Jody.
Although I don't think I'm new.
No, that's like, it's not like.
Yeah, I saw it, I did read it. I'm not. Or I'm going to ask for that to be taken out.
I'm gonna go see him. It's missing Bruce Gantz.
I agree. Is that gonna be good? I didn't add that word. He gets it done. He gets it done. I wouldn't have asked I think my next thing was one thing about it,
I don't even know.
My neighbors was true. I had.
What?
Yes, I'm wondering. Yes, I'm wondering.
I know. What's the episode?
That's why we love this. I did not. If you leave, I will. Everybody else goes. The whole world around me is going.
See, will you follow me outside?
I stood my grandmother's place. And, we need to have things like this. We could have a picture of this. Yes.
Oh, I think what I'll do I think 3 times more.
Oh, no.
In Hoover again?
They've moved her several times.
She's her downstairs.
She's now, remember where we sat in that, what was a conference?
Oh, when they found out about us?
Yeah, I forgot about
Yeah,
that. That's now.
But she doesn't want to be upstairs.
Doesn't make sense. She's part of the charge.
How is?
She's amazing. He's collecting them, right? Nature, Crystal, Carla, Melissa.
No, but.
I sent mine to Crystal and I copied him.
The first thing that I sent it to Melissa.
And I responded to, I got a response from okay.
I know, and I think
Everyone
Mary
wants.
was out of town.
She might have been.
And then, but I did send it to Melissa.
Up to our letters.
Melissa Melissa doesn't have any. But it's Crystal.
It was really embarrassing, but.
She's the one who's
It
gonna.
would be probably the best.
Right. Oh, it does. I gotta remember they do. I gotta remember.
I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
Like 4 days. I put it in on Thursday afternoon. I had to pass it.
My buddy,
It was super fast.
he's $400.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, so you got this. I'm like, sorry for saying.
Yeah, it goes like right through. Yes. I then it's a slap in the July. Yeah. It's like 12.
So I'm like, well, it was perfect. Aaron Rodgers is gonna bring it.
Oh, is that Mondays? So we have a lot of people who move from administrative to expert placements.
Oh, yeah. No,
I thought it was huge, like, I didn't know that was.
huge to their defense. He's jumping and.
That's really good. He's doing that. He's doing
Because I would have gotten out of here before I went to Providence, but I got the notifications.
Was it you just separated? No.
So only 3 people respond to the survey. Yeah.
Spent all the money on the goal line.
Really happy.
Right, and that's what people said, right in that year. Is Chris gonna be in your class? I saw Randy today because I got stuck at
He's like,
perfect. I was supposed to.
But he's always had.
But I felt like it's so bad. Because they said to me, they said, him that wasn't shy. She wasn't. She's very feisty. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to understand.
Why was that?
Plots, right?
Why did it?
So the kids were probably.
See if I'm.
She did Shay.
Was it, what was the purpose?
Sub did Shay.
So she agreed on Sabbath, which means she is being allowed to.
No.
Does he realize that?
He knows.
Yeah. I just can't abandon it. No, none of the standards.
Why? That's 2/3 of your bill.
Would you like to go and just?
I told him.
I guess it
Wasn't making a big deal.
procedures. The whole thing was procedures. I
told him, I said, this first year that they, I should be doing intervention in English. You think so? And behavioral, even in, I don't, Amber does all the teaching of the math, I just support. Yeah. They said that they actually should probably be able to test that. I just support. Down here they get excited. Yeah. Oh, but Sylvia said that she doesn't think about it, there's always go back to different periods.
That's like a point, because that's what I saw. And then they get our language
So, I told them, like, you can fine, but they called out for a little.
Because it's not.
Showing.
That knows, but it's not.
I'm on my side. So probably people could it is a world language, but they could also just.
Tell them not to repeat things.
But I also think our kids don't learn like they kind of high
So,
school.
There wasn't much. No,
Just as soon as.
we had a brand new kid in our second grade started today. Second grade, first day of school. He was speaking, going into chapters. By the end of the day, he could not read and speak the colors.
That's to say the little guy.
First day.
They're removing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but also the education itself.
I told them where to aim, like the is putting up the attack force. Yes, the way for things
She was born.
No, not when it's loud.
Listening, because we all make
oh, yeah. Because I didn't know what
This guy looks it.
Listen, I grew up in military Bradford, and I only get about my kids, and then my students down here would be like, I swear to God, if you don't believe me, know what it is.
Anyway, back to So I was third grade. So Carol Coleman taught the shelter. Third graders, all that. And I was one of them. I was in one across from the and she was way out. So every day I was my shoes down.
Julie was like, what did you just say?
And that was like, that was a new routine.
You know what? A hole in the ground.
So they were in the same period. So we did musical videos and went for kids. It was amazing. So I figured that 20 kids, 25 general, 50 kids doing it was amazing. And the next year I went down to which was kind of like around the corner from 17. It's weird that, you know, that whole building was so then I started doing more. We did math. We did science. some of the kids came to me and that were and I was kids were there for and then we did that work. And then I moved it to 15, had a joint. So 15 joined to 17 right here. That door stayed open. All the girls just didn't know who the teacher was. It was just an amazing permanent kids live. Right? You have some kids very clear because they were constantly, and our kids that were fluent in Spanish. So help me myself, right? It's just such a great program. That's why I
They're like my hypothalamus, which is like, goes off when I see it. I'm like, absolutely. I feel like, but I have, I just need this. I'm sorry.
I'd be drinking.
I pulled out Margaret and like, Jody said all the rest of you did, but I was like.
Finally caught them, they were getting this clear.
Yeah, and you know what?
And I didn't answer. I was looking for me to answer.
You know what? I had one on and I gave it a flip. And they had been there for. They were so angry, I sent up there when this, I think we have to go to our room. They were just rampant, and like, we were just sitting there just. It was like the same.
Yeah, they don't do plastic bags anymore. It's illegal. I know, isn't it nice to get a Velcro tag? Oh, so it's nice.
I'm coming to work on a lake. Oh, well, it's the ballast anyway.
Unfortunately, they had to learn the microphone.
Yeah, nobody wants to learn. Which is okay. Just like a young guy, right? If you ask me, I would that's no, don't. He's too young.
It's us, it's exactly.
I'm gonna take a nap. Yeah, I mean, he's just that.
Are you sure?
The link was still there. Oh, there. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was maybe like 2 weeks ago.
No, yeah, no, I fixed it.
I just remember we have like actual items. I forgot we had some discussion items.
No, we do. Oh, we do. No, but I don't think you have a plane out tonight.
Next Thursday night.
Can you sit here?
Convene in public session at 8:33 PM. Ms. Liss, please take a roll call.
Ms. Vinolo. Mr. Shalal. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Charbonneau.
Here, please report out the votes of the executive session.
The committee voted unanimously to allow the SkyPath representative in the executive session, to allow Mrs. Ramsey and Mr. Cristino in the executive session, to seal the executive session minutes, and to adjourn the executive session.
Thank you. All right, we're wrapping up here. Discussion items. Elizabeth Baldwin Elementary School project change update. Rose is going to come up. Ms. Grant, this is a follow-up to your inquiry at the last meeting regarding some of the changes that were done in the value engineering phase at Baldwin. Hi, Rose.
Good evening. So I wanted to go over the changes that were suggested for Baldwin.
Excuse me for 1 second. I thought at the meeting we had, you had gone over the changes. And my question was, because it seemed like you guys were telling us that these, my impression, please correct me if I'm wrong, was that these were changes that are going to be made, and you were just telling us that these changes were being made. And my question was, okay, who approved these? Because you guys weren't asking for our approval. That was my question the last time.
Yeah, ultimately, these are items that if the committee and this body decides that they want to add in, and we have the flexibility and added capital to add these items in, we could definitely explore it for sure. But these are items that we recommend be changed so that we get to the budget that was approved.
Rose, do you have, my error, the committee was sent a bid evaluation form for Baldwin.
Mhm.
The allowances that started with the roof and showed the 13 items or so, do you have that readily available?
I have it in my email. I have my list, but, can you, please? I have to. I can go through it while, Assistant Superintendent, makes a copy for all
So
of you guys.
I think what we were looking for, because there was some conversation at the last meeting, that
Right.
there was value engineering that occurred
Right.
to get the price down to within 11,000 of the initial price for the
Right.
GMP. And the conversation became, well, what were the changes?
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking about minor things, and then we morphed over to talk about the roof. And I think the will of the committee was, could we get a list of material changes? If we changed the shade of blue from one to another, we don't need to know that. But any material changes, can we get a list of? And I think you sent that list, you compile that list and sent it. Ms. Ramsey will make a copy of it. But if you want to go through that
Yeah,
list at
I
the
can do
beginning.
that,
And just
absolutely.
what the status of the changes, if it's been accepted, approved, and who did it.
Okay. So the first item on the value engineering list is the change of roof to Garland, who is a manufacturer. It was recommended because it's a district standard. It's done in other schools in Pawtucket. So the department wanted Garland roof, so we changed it. So that was one change that was done to the to Baldwin.
I don't mean to interrupt you. You said the department wanted, who wanted it changed?
It was discussions within, with like John Cody Facilities, Lisa Ramsey, because we have Garland roofs in other schools. They wanted to keep the uniformity throughout all schools.
Oh, no, I'm just, like I said, again, and this kind of goes back to a little bit before. We're the committee that makes these decisions. And if people just start going out there, changing things, and we don't have control over this, then it could either cost a lot of money, or it could might not be something that we're looking for. And that's why we have these processes in place. And there are certain things that this committee is responsible. And change orders are things that we need to be aware of and that need to come in front of us. So, like we talked earlier, there is no one person and who can make these changes, and these are things that need to come in front of the school committee. Because God forbid, if we decided not to approve these because someone took it upon themselves to make these decisions, this could hold things up. And we don't want to hold things up. But I also believe we do not want to feel like we have to approve things because we're in a time crunch and you guys thought person A, it was okay for them to make the changes.
Okay. Moving on to the next item, number 2, is plumbing. PVC underground was changed. It was copper previously. Industry standard is PVC, and we found a savings there. So we recommended that would be a savings to Baldwin Elementary.
All these approved? And these are changes that, or
these are changes that are included in the GMP that was approved previously.
And just for clarification's sake, generally, we're not involved in what type of material will be included for the underground plumbing. right, initially? I mean, we never approved copper plumbing.
No, it was just in the drawings, correct?
It was in the drawing, okay. And because you said it was industry standard.
Yeah.
So they price it at industry standard, which is the elevated amount. Then when we run over, we look, where can we, and then we look at, okay, copper piping underground, let's put PVC there. Okay.
Correct. Another item that was VE'd was eliminating plywood backing out of the exterior panels, the metal panels. Again, this is industry standard. The subcontractor noticed the drawings and noticed that there was plywood behind him, and he was like, this is a little overkill. You guys can go to what we do on every other job, which is removing that plywood. So he gave us a value engineer for that item as well.
So by removing the plywood, I'm just thinking of the heat element within the building or the cooling within the building. Will that have any effect on that?
No, it won't, because the what they call it is the envelope is outside of that metal panel. So the envelope and what consists and gives you the insulation for your building is not in the metal panels. It's actually within the actual wall. That's what gets you that's what gets your building insulated. The metal panels is just strictly facade decorative, correct. Next item was moving 20% of the window fins to standard window jambs, which is the item that we had discussed previously. And this was just strictly in the courtyard. We had suggested this VE strictly because there are trees in front of the courtyard, so you would never be able to even see. So we thought it was a good area to potentially move some of those fins out. But we kept it on the rest of the exterior of the building. The next item is changing interior doors to a standard height. They were initially at 7'10", and we reduced them to 7 feet, which is what all of your door frames are always at. So we found some savings there. The next item is Shawmut's fee contingency and allowances. We went through the budget, which is what I think you guys have in front of you. That is the allowance log. Those are owner allowances. We went through those allowances. Initially, the allowances were at like $705,000. And given where we were at right now, we've already installed foundations. We're starting steel. We realized that we didn't need as much of the money that we thought initially, a year ago. So we were able to sort of take some of that money and not need it anymore. So we pulled that. So that was the allowance reduction. Contingency, we did the same thing. We were like, okay, we're out of the ground. We don't need as much money. Let's reduce the contingency, give back to the school. And then Shawmut also reduced their fee a little bit to help the school department get to the number. Another item that was removed was gym dividing curtain, but we added it to an add alternate list. And that add alternate list allows the committee in, maybe a couple months from now to, if we have the funds, to add it back if that's something that this body decides that they want to do. So that's the add alternate list. Same as the basketball backboards, we added that to an add alternate list as well, if that's something that the school decides that they want to add back. There was another item about changing the kitchen per the Aramark warming kitchen needs. So we met with Aramark, we met with superintendent, and we noticed that what was on the drawings was in excess of what was needed for the school in terms of servicing. Aramark said that all they need is a warming kitchen. So what we did is we went back, redesign the kitchen a little bit and reduce some of the items. And he approved and said that that's all he needs. So we thought that we could capture some savings there. The next item is reducing the ceiling tile, extending the ceiling tiles to the wall. There were some clouds in the corridors only, but there were some issues with the ceiling heights that we couldn't make work with those clouds in terms of like mechanical not fitting. So all we did was extend the ceiling tiles to the walls, which ended up costing less than the clouds. So we captured that savings as well.
What are the clouds?
What are clouds? So it's basically like if you got this piece of, say, these 4 pieces of ceiling tiles and you suspended it all by itself or like dropped it.
What's a cloud?
Lobby.
Yes, correct. So again, there was some mechanical issues that we couldn't work around with those clouds. So all we did was we extended it to the wall, and because it was an easier install for the contractor, they gave us a credit for that. So the next item is standard tile pattern in lieu of doing random tile pattern, and that was just for the floor. The contractor noticed that if we did a standard pattern, it'd be easier for him to install same way. So he gave us a credit for that. The architect noted that it would still meet the design intent that was originally on his drawing. So we recommended that would be an item for value engineering. And then the last thing was an item that we added, which was adding poured-in-place surfacing to the kindergarten through grade 2 playground. Because in the drawings, it was shown as wood chips. So we changed that back to poured-in-place because we understood that the school, just like all the other playgrounds, had poured-in-place, and we understood that was something that you guys would probably want. So those are the items that we looked at and realized that either industry standard or it was just easier to install a different way, but the end user the end user, as in the school, was gonna get a good product. So those are the items that we went through and value engineered to get to the GMP that we presented last time that we were here.
Anything else? I would just maybe as a going forward strategy, when we get to the value engineering piece, that menu of VEs needs to come to this committee. We can approve it all as a package, but it should come to this committee for approval, because somebody may walk into a school and say, wait a minute, I thought we had, it's all about providing Baldwin the same thing we provided Winters, the same thing we provided Potters, the same thing we provided Green. So when decisions are made to take some cosmetic things away or whatever outside of this committee, I think it puts us in a position to say, wait a minute, that's not the direction we gave. So I would ask that going forward in that value engineering, these suites come to this committee for approval before the GMP comes. Anything else? All right, thank you, Rose. Monthly vendor report. There is no one here to field questions. I would ask the committee, if anyone has specific questions on the vendor report, email Ms. Liss. She will get she will get answers for us, and she will communicate the question and the answer out to the entire committee in informational pieces. Ms. Grant?
Can we ask that we go back to getting these monthly?
We will be getting them monthly going forward.
Okay, thank you.
And then the enrollment report. Any questions on that? There being none on the enrollment report, superintendent's update. Superintendent Royal.
Good evening, everyone. So, I had a meeting and I'm late, so apologize for my lateness. But excited to share some updates with you all. On the way in, I must take a moment to address, I had my headset driving, listening to the meeting, and I heard the grave concerns about student behaviors at one of our schools. And I just wanted to just update everyone on what has been happening as concerns have been shared with central office and the leadership team. So myself, along with central office, have been working with the school leadership team, mostly through the principal and his designees. And we've been working hand in hand with each other on problem solving around solutions that will best fit the needs of not only the students, but the staff as well. Not only at that particular school that I heard earlier, this is happening across the district as well, more so for some schools than others, but principals do have the autonomy in how or who they designate to work alongside on those teams. Like some schools call those teams MTSS teams, some schools call those teams behavior teams, it just depends. So we are going to continue to work with those school leaders. Central office will continue to work hand in hand because this work is very challenging and difficult. We do have challenging students in our schools. And after COVID, things are very, very different in our classrooms. And we are very well aware of that. But we have to support one another, work together in problem solving to meet the needs of, like I said, not only our students, but also our families, also our teachers, also our leaders. So it's going to take the whole community to make sure that we're doing best so we can continue to educate our children here in Pawtucket School Department. So I just wanted to address that. Also, another update, myself, leadership team, we are continuing to engage in our instructional learning walks. So far, we've done Fallon, Shea, and Green. The district office and school teams, we conduct our IOWs, which encompasses several key objectives aimed only at, mostly important, improving student learning and outcomes. Like I said, leaders have the autonomy to invite some. Teachers have participated, some of our interventionists, our other leaders in the building. So whoever is just open to whoever can participate. That's based on the leadership team. Also, leaders we walk and we give insights to what's needed for upcoming professional development, tailored to meet each and every individual needs of each individual schools. Each school is very unique and different. So we sit and we just serve as each other's thought partners around observations of the trends that are happening through the schools. And then we come up with our next steps that are actionable. It may be one, if at the most two next steps, and then we follow through with those next steps. And it's a very positive learning, collaborative forum. I've sat in on the majority of the ILWs and continue to participate as well. So we are definitely moving forward, working together to ensure that we're taking our district to the next level. Also, we celebrated Alice Sullivan Food Pantry ribbon cutting that was held at Shea. It was held January 18th. It was a huge success. We Share Hope and Coletta Tours have partnered to open the second school-based pantry, and it has been opened at Shea. So implementing a school food pantry brings about several significant benefits for both students and the broader school community. Our school food pantry serves as a valuable resource that goes beyond just addressing immediate food needs of our students and families. It also promotes health, academic success, community engagement, and a culture of care and support within the school environment. So I just want to say thank you for everyone's support with this very important initiative. Also, we held a press release right here in this very building with the governor of ride department and the commissioner, the mayor's office. Our chairman, Jay Charbonneau, was there. Our committee member, Kim Grant, was there, along with our distinguished guests, to announce the awarding of our $50 million for the Unified High School. I just want to personally again thank Principal Gilmore for hosting student staff. It was such a joyous occasion, and together it was wonderful watching us all invest in the future of our Pawtucket students. In addition, we held the first Parent Advisory Committee meeting. And the next one we will be scheduling coming up for our Parent Advisory Committee meeting. Due to the inclement weather on Tuesday, that was the day I was going to have my first Student Advisory Committee meeting, so we are currently in the process of rescheduling that committee meeting. So I'll keep you posted. The principals and the APs held their January monthly professional development last month. It was a success. They talked about the school accountability data. They reviewed it, dove into the data to respond to the data and create next steps for their schools. And principals, APs, and APs were asked to take the information back and share it with their school teachers and department heads and leaders. They also engaged, learning about Savage training, Title I, Title I, 3, and 4, and the audit training that we're now engaged in. So they learned about that. And they also took a deeper dive into uncovering our data for our learning walks. I am also continuing along with my partner, Kim Grant, to see our leaders and teachers support staff and working together to ensure that our students reach their full potential in their learning journeys. We've been visiting schools, taking a real peek at the magic that teachers are making happen in our schools. And so far we visit Curtis, Jinx, Little, Potter, and we will be visiting JMW tomorrow. Also, the hiring fair was held. We had another hiring fair, February 8th. We had 38 applicants that signed up, that came, and we were able to hire 7 people on the spot. So far this year, the new implementation of monthly hiring fairs, we have hired a total, since we started, 52 applicants as a result. So I just want to thank Crystal Lofton and her dynamic team, and thank everyone for supporting this initiative to meet the needs of our students and our staff. Also, we've also passed our attendance awards out to the following schools for the month. Last month, Varia received their trophy for the highest daily rate attendance rate, which was 93.7%. Varia, she said she was coming to get the trophy, and she got the trophy. Also, Varia also received the most improved attendance rate as well. So they improved the most by 0.5% last month. And then the winner for the greatest decrease in chronic absenteeism was Gulf Middle School. So let's give it up, Gulf. And just want to notate that attendance matters. So we are still pushing forward. Thank you to our teachers and our leaders for making attendance a priority in our schools, because we got to have our kids in the seats learning. Upcoming events on March 20th is our Superintendent's Family and Community Night at Gulf Middle School at 6 p.m. So I hope to see you there. And then on March 28th is our district-wide parent-teacher conferences again. So parents and caregivers, please, please, please schedule your conferences with your child's schools. They will have information. We will also have information located on our district website. And thank you.
School committee updates, Ms. Manolo.
Okay, I will be brief. One of the things I'd like to talk about possibly on another agenda item is the new process for determining snow days. We have gotten to the point where we...
Ms. Manolo, I don't want to interrupt your update, but that's more of a, if you want to discuss that process and how we go about it and whose decision, I'll put it on. Ms. Liz, can you make a note to put snow days on the next work session? But it's not an update item per se.
Okay. So the other thing I had, I wanted to congratulate our students, our athletes, and particularly the robotics team and the mock trial from JMW. They have been, mock trial has been killing it for years now. And I'm proud of them. It's nice to be able to see that we're going up against the so-called toughest, best schools in the state, and we're winning. And it's just nice to see. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shalal.
My update is 9 PM on a Thursday, so thank you very much and good night.
Ms. Grant.
I just want to say have a good night, everyone, and have a good weekend.
Ms. Fernandez. Stubbe.
I just want to speak to the teachers who came tonight. I know they're not all here. I know that they had to get home. So I hope that people share this message with them. I taught at a persistently dangerous and violent school. It was isolating as a teacher, and you often felt like an island. And no matter what you were doing in the classroom, the disruptions made it almost impossible to make progress. And I think that what I didn't see at my school was teachers coming together to say something about it. And I think that tonight we saw teachers standing up together and teachers serving as a voice for other teachers, so that isolation that new teachers might be feeling, or teachers who don't feel as confident coming to a school committee meeting might be feeling, I really commend that, because it really matters when we talk about retaining teachers. And I see Pawtucket teachers having each other's back, standing together, and that's really important. I know you talk about retention, and I do agree that, climate is a big part of retention, but it also is feeling very lonely as a teacher sometimes. And so I commend you for making sure that teachers don't feel that way. And I look forward to continued updates about how the reinstitution of regular meetings are leading to productive ideas that will ensure that our teachers teach in safe environments. Thank you.
Very well said, Ms. Stubbe. And I think it's important to recognize that this Safe and Orderly Schools Committee, we did set it up. And, it's my kids went to Tolman. And, and it sounds like Tolman, two things are happening at Tolman. The physical building's not getting any better, and the environment inside's not getting any better. So, you heard it today. I want it to be known, though, that this committee approved the Safe Orderly Committee be formed. I believe the last meeting was January of 23, a year ago. So, good night. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned by Ms. Fernandez, seconded by Ms. Grant and Ms. Pinolo. Any discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good night.
I just read it today and it's like dying, but it's not.
Did you grab Martin?
That's great.
Folks, we're going to interview School Committee Chair Jay Charbonneau in just a moment. Chairman Charbonneau, we are already live, so we'll get right to it.
Well, thanks for the heads up.
So it's Chairman's Corner again. We've just finished a marathon session here at your Pawtucket School Committee. Committee Chair Jay Charbonneau is with us as always, and we appreciate the fact that after a full and rewarding day full of personal growth, that he's going to kind of do it. We're going to do a very quick recap. An emotional meeting tonight, a complex meeting tonight, a lot of challenging issues covered in what I would phrase as a very productive manner. Well, a lot of honesty, a lot of listening. Let's start, of course, with representatives of the teachers and the teachers union speaking to issues of violence, issues of suspensions, issues of attendance. What were your thoughts tonight? Were you surprised? Did this catch you a little bit by surprise, the complexity and the depth of it?
Well, I think there's certainly been an uptick in some of the altercations at Tolman and throughout the district over the last few weeks. Did it catch me by surprise? No, I mean, we've got a group of passionate teachers who care deeply about the schools that they teach in, and I think they recognize that they can come in front of this committee and speak candidly. I think that's what you saw tonight. I think this committee, like I said at my closing remarks, I think we also heard of this last year, and we acted. We moved to form a Safe and Orderly Schools Committee, and that was made up of administrators, teachers, to my knowledge, no committee members. And that group, I think, last met January of '23.
Do you expect that'll jumpstart now, given the emotions tonight?
It sounds like it's reassembling, maybe at a smaller group, but it sounds like they're going to reorganize it and start meeting again.
Do you expect them to come to you with a list of wants, if you will, a list of needs to address these situations?
Yeah, well, I think that's what we saw last year, right? There was a request for additional supports, and we looked at ESSER funds and brought Boys Town in and some other factors. So I expect that to continue.
There are policies were discussed tonight in depth, and there's a prevailing theme. It's really the interaction, if you will, of school committee members as individuals in a variety of situations. Maybe you could speak to that.
Sure. So, working with Ms. Doobie, who chairs the policy subcommittee, I asked her to look at committee communication. Right now, what we're seeing is 7 members emailing people throughout the district looking for either documents or information or percentages. And I think you've seen in some of the past meetings my frustration about some people knowing some information and others not having it. I think not having a communication policy for members to communicate leads to that. So this streamlines the communication from the members through the clerk, and then that question and answer are disseminated in an informational-only piece out to the committee.
It's clear that the committee is acting as a team, as a unit here, that there's an increased emphasis on dissemination of that information, that critical information, across the board to newer members, to members who might have been here for many years, who might have personal relationships operating within the community. Is that the takeaway tonight?
Yeah, I think, listen, the more information, the better, right? And the more candid we can be and the more honest conversations we have, the better chances we have at getting to a meaningful solution. I think you heard that tonight on a number of the items we were discussed.
Of course, there's the $2.5 million. And were you surprised that there were no members from the financial team here tonight? That was raised. For folks who may not have seen the meeting or aren't aware of our reporting, there appears to be a discrepancy between the all-important, if you will, capital and medical reserve funding that's act as really a buttress to the school committee and the school community here in terms of being able to finance capital projects. And there's this disparity is significant. It's about $2.5 million. And there seems to be, from my perspective, we filed an APRA on it. We just got a request for an extension. There seems to be confusion about whether the money's really missing and it's just a question of not being accounted for properly. So from that perspective, should finance people have been here tonight?
Yeah, I think what, as I said, I've asked for the balances in those two funds, the capital reserve and the medical, back in the first week when I became chair. I have yet to get that information. I recognize the Coalition Radio has APRA requested the same information, and I believe we received approval this evening to go out for financial consulting services. I believe that will result in getting a finalized balance in both of those accounts in a relatively short amount of time. I don't believe that the capital reserve has a negative cash balance. I believe the money hasn't been allocated out of some of the state and local aid funds correctly enough. That's my assumption, but I've been doing this for a while, and I'm able to follow this stuff. And I think I talked about it at the last time we talked. This committee digs in. People pay attention and focus on what's at hand. I don't believe that the capital reserve is in a deficit. I think there's probably about $4.5 million in that account.
And finally, I mean, this amount, this budget, if you will, this reserve account is foundational to the preparation of a new budget, which needs to begin shortly, doesn't it? I mean, for folks who aren't aware, schools and municipalities and government largely operates on a mid-year fiscal year as opposed to a calendar year that really tracks, if you will, the academic year. So the committee really needs to get a handle on this quickly, don't they?
Yeah, I think I said it tonight. Time is of the essence, right? Because you can't close one fiscal year if you haven't closed the previous one, and you can't start building a budget if you haven't closed the previous fiscal year budget. So time is of the essence.
And just finally, I guess I really did have one more question. As important in closing the year is, of course, the audit that takes place. We spoke with folks today at the if you will, the guys who are in charge of the Auditor General, and Pawtucket is amongst a number of cities. I was quoted 16 that are looking towards March end, if you will, deadlines, extensions from the end of the calendar year to get their audit done. That's foundational as well, isn't it?
It is, and I was surprised by that, quite honestly. I know we had, together with the city, we had sent a request for an extension till February 12th. 2 days ago, I was in receipt of an email that the city has requested another extension on that, filing that audit until March 31st. So, it's foundational to the work and to the progress, and that's why time is of the essence with bringing in some financial experts on the school side.
Well, as always, thank you very much. It's been a long night. A lot covered. We've got the entire meeting up on the Facebook and social media. So follow us, if you will, on YouTube and Facebook. And thanks again for watching. And for folks who are catching up with this week, keep the questions and comments coming. A lot of what you feed us becomes, questions in line of research for what's happening in your city of Pawtucket. Everyone have a wonderful night. Thank you.